thought he handled it well. He's only going to get better from it.
Hand off Gore, up the middle, lowers his shoulder, drives his way.
And welcome to another edition of The Numbers Game presented by Bet365. I'm your host, Dan Graca. I'll be joined by my co-host, Cynthia Frelund of the NFL Network in just a moment. It's back to the drawing board this week for the Jets, who dropped their season opener a week ago, 27-17 up in Buffalo. Now they return home, getting ready to play their home opener against the 0-1 and defending NFC champion San Francisco 49ers. And without further ado, time now to bring in my co-host, Cynthia Frelund of the NFL Network. Cynthia, there's certainly left a lot to be desired out there for the Jets last week in Buffalo. Got off to that slow start, falling behind 21-0. But after halftime, we saw certainly a different football team, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
When you look at the third down difference in the first versus the second half, just look at that second half and focus there. The Jets converted 60% of their third down attempts in the second half, which is even more impressive considering, as you pointed out, they were playing from behind, which typically indicates more obvious passing downs and a harder situation for the Jets offense, an easier one to defend. So that was a very impressive second half given the slow start.
Absolutely, especially going up against a Buffalo defense, which is widely regarded as certainly one of the better units in all the National Football League. And one guy in particular, from an individual standpoint, who stood out last week for the Jets, and that was wide receiver Jamison Crowder, who, just like he did in Week 1 a season ago, put forward a very strong performance against these Buffalo Bills.
He had no space to work with and yet managed to come out and obviously get the score, but also really escape some of that horrible Buffalo pressure. So he's really incredibly impressive. That 100-yard receiving game is his first since Week 12 of 2017 versus the Giants. The 69-yard touchdown reception obviously is a large chunk of that. But if you also look to see the change in space in the second half, he commanded the attention of the defenders of those great safeties and corners that the Bills have. So he really opened it up for the rest of the team as well.
And you saw his talents, too, when it comes to getting yards after the catch, as evidenced by that 69-yard touchdown catch and run from Sam Darnold. Unfortunately, as is the case really with every game in the NFL, injuries are going to play a factor, and the Jets did not escape Week 1 as healthy as they would have liked. Le'Veon Bell injured a hamstring. Blake Cashman, the linebacker, went out early with a groin injury. Both of those guys land on the short-term IR. They have to sit out for at least the next 3 weeks. So with Bell out of the mix for this week against the 49ers, that means the veteran Frank Gore gets to receive the majority of the workload against an opponent he's quite familiar with, of course, the all-time leading rusher in 49ers history.
Well, let's be honest, Frank Gore is pretty familiar with many teams that he's going to face because he's been in the league for so long, which is such a testament to how underrated. In fact, Kyle Shanahan called him underrated, one of the most underrated running backs in the entire league. The number that you want to look for in this one is 86, as in Week 5, 2017, when he was a Colt and faced the Niners the first time he had a revenge game against them. 86 scrimmage yards, which he projects to earn more than this weekend as a Jet.
Still more to come on the Numbers Game. We'll look ahead to some over-unders as it applies to Week 2's contest. And we'll also take a peek at this Sunday's opponent, the San Francisco 49ers. More to come on the Numbers Game, presented by Bet365.
Join Bet365 now and discover the power of the world's favorite sportsbook. Watch thousands of live games. Build your own bet. You can even bet on games while they're still being played. Seriously. And if you can't watch the games live, we'll alert you of any changes. Nice. We're the world's favorite sportsbook, and this is no ordinary betting app.
And we welcome you back into the Numbers Game, brought to you by Bet365. Dan Graca alongside Cynthia Frelund. And Cynthia, when you look at Sam Darnold and his performance in week number 1 and how that could carry over here to the 49ers game on Sunday, you look at Sam in his career against NFC opponents. He's 4 up and 3 downs, but specifically, last year he was a perfect 3-0 when the Jets welcomed NFC opponents in, and Sam was accounted for 8 touchdowns, 1 of them on the ground, to only 2 picks. So at least that side of the NFL he's had some success with here in the last couple of seasons.
You like the whole West Coast traveling to the East Coast
He's a
thing.
West Coast
There
guy.
is something to be said there.
Absolutely. Now, you look at Brashad Perryman. We touched on him a little bit earlier here. 49ers banged up in the secondary, as you said, with Richard Sherman on IR. When you look at him potentially as a fantasy play for Sunday, how does Perryman stack up?
He's great in daily fantasy formats because that ROI, given his price, is really favorable. But also, you want to look at him in season long, too, in terms of a nice flex for a lot of upside. This could be the type of situation where he has, like, the 70-yard touchdown pass. We know Sam's capable of throwing those deep passes. We know that this defense is targetable with those situations. It's all going to come down to whether the O-line will be able to buy Sam Darnold enough time to let that play develop.
And the offensive line, you bring them up. They played all 56 snaps on Sunday up in Orchard Park there, and all eyes were on the big guy, the rookie left tackle, number 77, Mekhi Becton, who, if you watch the game, you certainly know that he distinguished himself very, very well in his first NFL contest.
So this is the number one. That's how many pressures he surrendered. That is incredible considering his assignment was Jerry Hughes. No big deal. Just a guy who's going to bring tons of pressure on every single passing down. And they had a lot of passing down. So this is an incredible performance from Becton. I expect that to continue. This will be a big factor. The Niners front is ferocious. They bring pressure from every side. This unit playing together in the same way that they did is going to be key, especially because we also saw some good things in run blocking, which is a huge differentiator for Becton from college. It was a different scheme, different kind of form. Everything's translating really well to the NFL so far. One game, but still, the Bills are a rushing team, so this was a big deal.
Absolutely. The contrasting styles, as you said, Jerry Hughes, more of a speed rusher guy. This week, you figure Mekhi is going to see a lot of the reigning Defensive Rookie of the Year in the NFL, Nick Bosa, who gives you the power. Yeah, he's got a little bit of quickness, too, but it just keeps getting harder and harder. Welcome to life in the NFL, and Mekhi Becton certainly getting an introduction to that early on here in his pro career. On the flip side, you look at the Jets on the defensive side of the ball. We knew that more was going to be asked of Marcus May this year at the safety position. And Cynthia, if 1 week is any indication, my goodness, he delivered and then some. You got to be excited what we can see from Marcus May the rest of the way.
Absolutely. Let's hope that tackle number goes down, not because he's making so many tackles or he needs to, but because hopefully he won't be asked to. As the defensive front becomes stronger and works together more, and you saw that come together in the second half. You saw Quinn Williams start to really kind of understand what was being asked of him. As you see that happen, then Marcus May becomes this threat, and no one wants to throw the ball, run the ball, get anywhere near him. So while the traditional stat will potentially go down, the influential stat and the one that leads to W's, that one should go up.
I mean, he had a couple of sacks, too, when he came in and was asked to blitz. He almost had a third one, a couple of pass defenses, had a forced fumble. Marcus all over the field. And look, this is one of the playmakers, and if the Jets are going to be successful in 2020, he certainly has to come through. I thought also really a pleasant surprise on Sunday was the play of Bless Austin, the second-year corner who was thrust into the starting lineup this year and played all but one snap, 8 tackles, a forced fumble. Second-year guy out of Rutgers, certainly showing that he belongs here in his first full NFL season.
One, he has the best name in the NFL, hands down. I mean, I just don't know if there's a better one. Number two, the interesting part in this game, so if you look to see in this specific matchup against the 49ers, if you see what Jimmy Garoppolo did against when he was targeting his running backs and tight ends, he had a significantly higher passer rating as opposed to when he was targeting his wide receivers. He was like sub 48 passer rating when targeting wide receivers, as opposed to almost a 137 passer rating when targeting tight ends and running backs. This is going to be key, and this is going to be where Bless Austin will make everything just even better for the Jets, because those shorter passes, intermediate passes, we're going to see what he's made of. Can he see? It's going to keep it in front of him. Can he get to where he needs to be? Can he execute? Because that's going to be a key in this one. No big plays allowed by the 49ers will be a key for the Jets.
All right, so as we begin to look ahead to Sunday here, let's get into a little bit of a bet side of things here and maybe look at some over-under tendencies that we could expect to see on the field. How about total points in this game? 49ers having to travel West Coast to East Coast. Remember, 1 o'clock start for them. It's 10 o'clock in the morning on that West Coast time. Maybe they're not going to be up, ready to go. We know they have injuries as well they're dealing with. Over under 42.5 points, though, total. How do you think this one plays out?
I think both defenses are the strength of their teams. And then you said it exactly right. There are a ton of injuries just all across both teams. So I think this is going to be a lower scoring game because those defenses are going to keep everything in check. I don't think this is going to be the kind of game where you see, just crazy number of points by either team. I think it's going to be a nice, slow chess match. It's going to be Kyle Shanahan run what's going on with these shorter runs and outside zone runs. And it's going to be Greg Williams being like, oh, you're not going to do that. And then on the other side of the field, it's going to be Adam Gase. What do we got against Saleh?
I agree with you. I think that you're going to have essentially a fist fight in a phone booth here. It's going to probably be that under number as well. And I think that every possession here is going to be of the utmost importance. Still a lot more to do, including an up-close look at the San Francisco 49ers, as well as some more over-unders for Sunday's game as well. This is the Numbers Game, brought to you by Bet365.
Let's go, boy! Let's go! Let's go, man! Hey!
3rd down and 7. Quick pass to Crowder, trying to get him out of space. Slips a tackle, and there he goes! Crowder breaks free! It's a foot race, and Crowder is in there! And somehow, the Jets are still in this ball game!
Yes, sir.
Just like that, the Jets offense with a spark.
Welcome back to the Numbers Game, brought to you by Bet365. Dan Graca alongside Cynthia Frelund. And Cynthia, you look at this 49ers team. They came this close to winning a Super Bowl last year, of course, down there in Miami, and also came this close to winning their Week 1 game, but they didn't accomplish either as Arizona went into their building and beat them last week. First of 2 straight games they're going to play at the stadium. They'll take on the Giants the following week. They'll spend the week in between down there at the Greenbrier in West Virginia to cut down on the travel a little bit. But just like the Jets, 49ers also dealing with some injury concerns going into this one.
Absolutely. Their secondary, which is going to be a key to this matchup, that one's banged up. Obviously, Richard Sherman just went on the IR. And then if you look to see their wide receivers, Deebo Samuel and George Kittle, both questionable. They're dealing with some injuries there. Deebo Samuel, obviously, a bigger, probably, bigger deal than, hopefully, than George Kittle for them.
Jimmy G on Sunday, 19 of 33, 259, 2 touchdowns. Numbers misleading a little bit, though, right? Because if you look at the way he distributes the football, or at least likes to distribute the ball, not necessarily reliant too much on his wide receivers.
Nope. Most of those passes go to running backs and tight ends. If you look actually to see those 2 injured players that we talked about that potentially won't be on the field, we don't exactly know what to expect. But, when you look to see what happened when he targeted Deebo Samuel and George Kittle specifically, there's a 23-point increase in his passer rating compared to all else. That's a big deal. And that also kind of corresponds to another trend that's really interesting and actually very favorable for the Jets. The difference between Jimmy G's passer rating and ability to complete passes when he gets quick passes off versus when he takes more than 2.5 seconds. So if you look at next-gen stats, those quick passes, those sub 2.5 second ones that typically go to running backs or to maybe Deebo Samuel closer or George Kittle, that's where he had 2 touchdowns and a 152 passer rating. And then if you look to see on those ones that took a lot longer, those 2.5 seconds or longer, you saw a significant decrease in yards per attempt. That's really troubling because those are typically longer passes. No touchdowns and a sub 65, 66 passer rating. So it's a huge decrease when he has more time.
Let's get to some more over-unders here for this game coming up here on Sunday. We did the total points over-under. Let's go to the first half specifically. First half total, Cynthia, over-under 21. It's a minus 110 bet. What are you leaning towards?
I think the under is the way to go in that situation. I don't think this game's going to get off to a fast start because of those defenses. I don't think it's going to get a fast start for either team. So I think when you're looking to see where the points will be scored, I think second half adjustments will be where both Kyle Shanahan and Adam Gase excel. And that's what's going to be the difference makers. So the beginning of the game might be a little slow, but for both teams.
I agree with you. I think we are going to see a low-scoring game in total, and we can expect to see that over the first 2 quarters here. All right, let's have a little bit of fun with this last one, okay? How about the total score? Is it going to be an odd or an even number? Odd minus 120, even plus 100. I got the odds minus 120 for the total points here. What are you leaning towards?
You're going odd, I'm going even, because we have to clash here
Oh,
the obvious answers, right? Odd versus even. So I'm going to go even. I'm going to say they're probably going to see something where maybe the Niners go for 2 and it doesn't work out. So we're going to see some version of an even number. And I think that's how it's going to happen. 14, something like that.
I just see like a 20-17 swirling in my head or something like that. I don't know. We'll see if it comes true on Sunday. Let's take a look, though, at the upcoming schedule here for the Green and White. After the home opener against the 49ers, it's back on the road for week number 3 to take on Phillip Rivers and the Indianapolis Colts before coming back to MetLife Stadium for a weeknight primetime affair, Thursday Night Football against the Denver Broncos. Jets are going to see if they can get back in the win column here, or get into the win column this week, Cynthia. This was a blast as always, and we will do it again next week. That's going to do it for us. For Cynthia Frelund, I'm Dan Graca. This has been The Numbers Game, brought to you by Bet365. Enjoy the game, everybody.